enforcement.
Maybe anybody around the fence would think all the four would be sitting together over there.
I know the next time I ask for whole cakes, it's in a sheet pan. That long. It's that deep. I'll be dead if I try to do that.
I would too. My eye would be in a pure coma.
Definitely.
Not that I don't like it.
Pina colada.
Okay, so that means it's got coconut. See, I don't like coconut much, but I'll have, I got to taste it.
A bunch of X's in here tonight.
Lisa, she's on some, she said.
We got Thurston, we got
Yes, you shepherds.
That's true.
You'll know next
I
time.
know now. I know. Keep your mouth shut. Because I just, because I said, I know she's going to have one made on Monday night. You know that was.
Everybody got quiet, so I guess it's time to start. I'll call the meeting to order and welcome everyone here this evening. This meeting is a joint meeting of the Town Board and the Planning Board for the purpose of a special use public hearing on a special use permit. And I'd kind of like to go over a few of the rules. This type of hearing is a little bit different. It's a quasi-judicial hearing. And what that is, it's just similar to a court proceeding. I guess you could call me the mayor and these people are the jury. But this is an evidentiary hearing, so all persons giving evidence must state their name, address, and be sworn or affirmed. Now, that's true of anyone asking questions, because after someone makes a statement or makes their presentation, there's an opportunity first for either of these boards to ask a question, and then any interested party to come forward and ask a question. And the interested parties would need to come forward and be sworn in. Again, decisions are made on evidence not presented, not hearsay or unsubstantiated personal opinion. After each speaker is finished, then questions again may be asked, first by the board and then interested parties. Once the hearing is closed, then no further evidence can be presented. So it will be, afterwards, we will refer the matter to a planning board for their consideration and a recommendation back to this board, and then this board will make a final decision at some future date. I need to ask if any of our board members feel that they have an ethic conflict or relevant evidence first. Okay. Secondly, ex parte communication, meaning communications outside of the public hearing. I need to confirm with the members of both boards that no board member has had any undisclosed ex parte communications or has a conflict of interest regarding this matter.
Mayor, you're aware that I have monthly one-on-one meetings with the members of the Board of Commissioners to go over upcoming board agendas, as well as other matters of interest to the town. And I have briefed each of the members of the Board of Commissioners regarding the Barrington Special Use Permit. The content of the briefings was procedural in nature, such as the schedule of the date of the hearing, the status of the progress being made by both the applicant and the staff to complete the application for the hearing, and to provide the board members with assistance in identifying the table of contents within the application.
Thank you, sir. So, will our board members confirm that this is accurate description of the communications that you had with the town manager?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Would those communications in any way prevent you from making an impartial decision based on the evidence presented and the requirements set forth in the ordinance, and you understand the applicant and interested parties have a right to an impartial decision maker and a decision based solely on the evidence in the record? Okay, thank you. All right, so let the record reflect that all of the members of the Board of Commissioners acknowledge the ex parte communications with the town manager, and that each of them is prepared to participate in the hearing in an impartial manner and make their respective decisions based solely on the evidence in the record. So thank you all for working with me on that. What will happen is we will have a staff report followed by evidence presented by the petitioner, and followed by then any evidence wanting to be presented by anyone opposed to some of the conditions. So having said that, I will call on staff for their report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the boards, and citizens. We've got a full crowd tonight, so glad everybody could come out. Give me a moment to shuffle all my papers around, just in case we need them. All right, you ready?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
State your name, please.
My name is Julie Spriggs. I live at 5113 Ernest Road, Wilson, 27893. Tonight, we are here to discuss the joint public hearing for the special use case 2017-01, which is for Barrington, is the name of the subdivision. And I'd like to ask that the evidence that I'm going to present for the staff report, the agenda plus the attachments, are all entered into the record for the hearing to help with the findings of fact and relay those back to the findings of fact for the decision at the end. So, the case for Barrington is a residential subdivision, and it's located at Old Bun Road and Parks Village Road. And it's a request by 264 Investments, represented by Charles Walker. 264 Investments owns the parcels at 601 Parks Village Road, 0 and 1745 Old Bun Road. I have the parcel numbers listed. It's around 210 acres. The current land use is vacant. The existing zoning is R20. It was recently annexed on November 7th from the ETJ and into one partial of Wake County into our town limits. And the proposed use is a residential subdivision for single and multifamily dwellings. And it does have a TIA required and submitted because it will generate over 100 trips.
Would you explain to them what a TIA is?
Yes, the TIA is a traffic impact analysis, and our ordinances state that anything over 100 trips for a new development needs to have a transportation engineer look at all the nearest intersections and roadways to determine the level of service on the roads for existing and what will be proposed after the development is built out, so that we can manage the level of service and travel times on the roadways that are nearest the development.
Thank you.
So the surrounding properties, we just do a north, south, east, and west quick to help people gauge, and then I'll show you the map. So we've got R20 on 3 sides, and we've got a Wake County zoning of R30, which is comparable to our R20. Most of them are single-family dwellings. One of the parcels is vacant. And this is the area of request. And if I can get my mouse here, this is Highway 64, this is Highway 264, this is Walmart, and this is the industrial park. And off the map down ways is the Shepherd School Road and Old Bun intersection, and down this way you've got Gannon Avenue, and out further this way you have Highway 39. So it's this large tract of land. There's a couple cutouts that are not part of the request. So I know there seems to be a lot of yellow, but there's a right-of-way here for Parks Village Road that comes up, and then 64 and 264. So this is the concept design that was submitted to you. This is the original concept design. And after talks with staff, going over the proposed list, we did get an updated illustrative plan that was included in your agenda packets, and your old illustrative plan was marked old, and then you received the updated larger plan. And so to get your bearings, this is Parks Village Road, this is Old Bun, this is Highway 264, this is Highway 64. So this one's rotated, this is your north area here. And as you can see, they have the single-family dwellings shaded a lighter yellow, the duplex paired family, this medium yellow, and then the townhomes, a darker yellow, townhomes, and the paired single family. And I'm going to flip back over to the PowerPoint. So background information for the case. It is a request for not to exceed a total of 837 dwelling units with a mixture of single-family dwellings, paired family dwellings, and townhomes. In the proposed conditions, there is a breakdown of a not to exceed percentage for each of these, and we can discuss that if we'd like to, but that is not one of the proposed conditions that staff and the developer did not agree upon. So I don't have it included in the PowerPoint, but at any time, if you want to hear the proposed conditions list, they are provided on the table for anybody in the audience who'd like to see the proposed conditions list. There's a packet on the table, and staff will be able to answer questions from any of the board members or anybody in the public in the audience who'd like to answer questions or ask questions about any of the proposed conditions that may not be included in the PowerPoint. These parcels were annexed in November 7, and the joint public hearing was originally scheduled for November 14th. We have delayed it till tonight so that staff could have more time to prepare the reports and agenda. That is a pretty thick agenda. We do have 84 conditions that were proposed. Of those 84 conditions, only 5 were not agreed to previously by the developer. Most of the conditions are pulled straight out of their own application, and they're just in contract form for the special use to make sure that they comply with their own application, what they have submitted. So the application required findings of fact. On our application, we ask questions to help show that they will not materially endanger the public health, safety, and welfare of our community. So the questions that we pose on our special use permit are in blue, and then the response that the developer has given back for those findings of fact is listed. And I'm sorry, this is supposed to be a little flag. I'm not exactly sure what happened to the font as we pulled it over. My font must be different on my computer downstairs than it is here. So that number 10 should be a little flag, so just note that it's not really a numeric that relates to anything else. So the evidence that they present to show that they will not materially endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. They did give a lengthy response. I don't know if you want me to read it word for word, but basically the gist of their answer is that it proposes with the town's land use plan, comprehensive plan, greenway master plan, and that those plans were adopted by the town. And when they were adopted by the town took into consideration the public health, safety, and welfare of the town itself. And since the development is based upon those plans, will comply with those plans, that it therefore will fall in place with the public health, safety, and welfare. And they are extending public utilities into the area at their own cost. So what evidence will you present to clearly show that the proposed special use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property? And they had a report prepared as attachment 9 in your agenda. The report was prepared by a real estate agent, and it speaks to how the development will not injure the value of the adjoining or abutting properties. And what evidence will you present to clearly show that the proposed special use will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located? Again, it references the comprehensive plan and the Greenway Master Plan and how it will be conforming with our plans so as not to harm the area. What evidence will you present to clearly show that the proposed special use will be in general conformity with the ordinances, policies, and plans for the town? And again, they reference the same plans that they've based their concept design from and the recommendations for the quarter two requirements that they will be talking about. And then evidence that they will not cause undue traffic congestion or create traffic hazards. They did do the TIA, which I mentioned is the traffic impact analysis. That was included, the entire report. It's a pretty thick report. I've got a copy here, just so everybody can see. This is the report that was turned in by Remy Camp and Associates. And they did the traffic impact analysis based on the site and some of the off-site intersections, Old Bun and Shepherd School, and the interchanges. And that is listed as attachment 14 in the agenda. And what evidence have they provided with respect to transportation facilities, water and sewer supply, fire and police protection, and similar facilities? Again, the TIA was submitted as required. And as part of the proposal, they will be extending water and sewer into the area. There is a Beaver Dam Sewer Creek Outfall project that the City of Raleigh Public Utilities is currently installing and should be online this spring. And they will be tapping into the outfall and extending utilities down. They will also be bringing water from the corner of Old Bun and Shepherd School Road through the length of Shepherd School Road and to this site for their use. And what evidence do they propose to show that nothing noxious or offensive by reason of vibration, noise, odor, dust, smoke, or gas will be given off in the development? And during the normal course of construction, which during our site plan review process, we do have a note for construction that you can only construct from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There is a time limit on construction. But during the normal course of construction, there will be times that there is noise, vibration, dust, and smoke. But ultimately, at final build out, it will be a residential subdivision and it'll have normal residential uses and homeowners, so it won't have unreasonable vibration, noise, odor, dust, smoke, or gas. And then the evidence to clearly show that the proposed special use will not impede the orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties. With the bringing in of water and sewer to this location, it opens up land that was not able to be developed before. So with them bringing in water and sewer, it actually helps development in the surrounding areas. So it improves the surrounding properties, not necessarily injures the value. And what evidence will you show that the proposed special use is reasonably necessary for the public health or general welfare? Does the special use enhance the successful operation of the surrounding area and its basic community function? And is it providing essential service to the community? And again, it is their answer references that they will be bringing water and sewer into the area by extending water and sewer and having more customers come online. It'll help the development fees, will help pay down the merger agreement, and that once the merger agreement is paid off with people coming into the development, it'll help lower the sewer and water rates for entire citizens of all the townspeople, not necessarily just people in their development. So those were their answers to the findings of fact. They are included in the application. And Mayor, did you have a question? It looked like you were going to say something. I don't want to. Yeah. Okay, I don't want to rush ahead if I.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so on to the staff report. So we're going to start with zoning. The special use district allows a variety of uses that a developer or landowner can voluntarily place their properties in a classification under special requirements or prerequisites for the development. Not necessarily a general use permit, but it's still an allowable use as long as you get the special use approved. Rezoning to a special use district is considered concurrent with the special use permit application, and although this is currently in R20, when it rezones as part of the special use, if you approve the special use, we will be rezoning the classification to R13 SUD for the densities will be better matched at R13. So most of the surrounding properties are zoned residential or heavy business special use or heavy industrial. Both heavy business special use and the heavy industrial districts are located across the 264 to the south, which is the industrial park and your Walmart shopping center. The residential districts are surrounding the actual parcel itself on Old Bun Parks Village Road. And I've got a breakdown of what is normally in each of those districts. Residential districts are intended to protect where people live. Heavy business is where people shop and has the widest range of commercial activities, and industrial is where the manufacturing, processing, and assembling of goods, merchandising, and equipment happens. So this proposed special use district is located on a parcel and parcel surrounded by parcel zone for such a use. And this is the zoning map here. So we've got in the hatched the request. The light yellow is all R20, which is residential. You've got the heavy business special use here across 264, which is Walmart and the out parcels. And then the heavy industrial for the industrial park here. And then a little bit of heavy business here. Again, a little bit of heavy business and a little bit of the industrial. But for the most part, anything that's not divided by 264 that's surrounding is considered residential. Moving on to land use, the comprehensive plan was adopted before the extraterritorial expansion occurred. Therefore, some of the request is not included in the report. The comprehensive plan suggests that the parcels surrounding the areas contain a mix of uses, including medium density residential and mixed use. So medium density residential is an overall density of approximately 3 to 4 units per acre, and their request is at 4 units per acre. And it includes single-family detached housing, duplexes, and townhomes, which is what they are proposing to do. And it's included for residential use served by municipal water and sewer services, which they are providing to their development. And then the mixed use is frequently for redevelopment commercial areas, vertical mixed use, closer to shopping centers where people can walk or bike to shop and experience that. Some of it can be residential and non-residential development together. It's a mixture of housing, places of employment, and places of retail service and commercial service that you can easily get to. It's basically a little hub of living and commercial activity for mixed-use development. And the proposed special use district conforms with the intent of the comprehensive plan for the portion that was included in the report. And what you can see here is all of this was not included in the report, so some of this portion and this portion was not, but the darker portions here that were included in the report are under the mixed use, the medium density development in the pink and the mixed use development in the green. When considering conditions for a special use permit, we have to make sure that the conditions are reasonable and are substantiated by some sort of evidence in the record, and that the conditions that impose an exaction are reasonable and related and proportionate to the impact of the development. So considering the limits of conditions that we can come up with, a condition cannot be imposed just because council thinks it would be a good idea or because it's desired by neighbors. Any condition that is proposed or imposed must be purposed to bring the permit into compliance with standards that are included in the ordinances already. And all conditions must be based on meeting a relevant standard in the ordinance, and the conditions must reasonably relate to that standard. So of the 84 conditions that we've proposed, they meet these requirements. And of the 84, 79 of them have been agreed to by the developer. And we'll discuss those 5. There's really 3 topics that we have Staff has proposed the 84 conditions. The 3 topics that we did not come to an agreement on those conditions that we proposed was the Greenway culvert crossing, public roadways throughout the development, and the number of garages for each development. So this PowerPoint will highlight the proposed conditions, but not go over each one individually for the interest of time. If members of either board, the public, or staff would like to discuss a proposed condition not provided in this report, but on a handout of the table, please feel free to do so. I'm here to answer questions. I can explain the methodology, and I can explain where we came up with that condition and why we thought it was a good standard for the development. And the agenda and the attachments have been in the planning department on office display for public viewing since December 2nd. For transportation, the multimodal transportation plan did not anticipate the level of development along Old Bun Road. Therefore, we need to update the transportation plan to include the new growth that is happening along Old Bun Road. However, we did get a TIA that shows the growth that will be happening because of the development. So we're going off the TIA, not necessarily a multimodal transportation plan. What we do have in the plan shows that Old Bun Road from Shepherd School Road to, help me out, is it Carriel Court? I always say it wrong. Carriel Court as a 2-lane curb and gutter with wide lanes and sidewalks on both sides of the road. And then from that point to the planning jurisdiction over closer to 39, it is a 2-lane road with wide paved shoulders. So that doesn't necessarily give enough room for 1,700 additional cars. So as part of the requirements from the TIA, they are supposed to look at the roadway itself and then those nearest intersections on the level of services that are current and that will be a build out. And that was attachment 14 in the agenda. And from that, staff consulted with Parsons Brinkerhoff to review the TIA, and I've supplied his letter of findings as attachment 10. And his findings concluded that the TIA was done accurately and correctly. And then he had some recommendations that the town might want to consider. We did consider these as proposed conditions, and the developer has agreed with these proposed conditions. What we proposed was that they included a minimum of 100 feet of storage width and appropriate tapers where turn lanes are required. And this is a standard for North Carolina Department of Transportation specifications. We included some off-site improvements for additional auxiliary turn lanes at NC 97 in Old Bun and Shepherd School Road. Reduced the number of driveways along Old Bun Run and Parks Village Road. They had in the TIA I think it was 12 driveways into the development. We asked them to lower that number. That way the driveway permits will be going through NCDOT, and there are strict guidelines for the number of entrances and the distance between those entrances. So reducing the number of entrances along that road will help them get that driveway permit from NCDOT. The developer has agreed to those proposed conditions. We have asked for additional right-of-way along Old Bun Road and Parks Village Road, and we've used NCDOT standards and we've used town standards for our common corridor widths and thoroughfare widths. So we've asked for additional right-of-way along Old Bun Road to have the right-of-way increased at varying amounts up to 100 feet for Old Bun and for 70 feet on Parks Village Road. And the developer has agreed to those conditions. Requiring additional rights-of-way throughout the corridors is, as the development creates a unique situation for the installation of sidewalks. Normally we have sidewalks down both sides of a thoroughfare, and if you remember, there are some cutouts. Not all the property is contiguous. There are some cutouts along the way, so that will create some interesting sidewalk delineations with extra 40 feet of right-of-way on one side of the road. The sidewalk will be set back a good 20 to 40 feet on one side of the road and then have to jet back up to where the new right-of-way is not and the old right-of-way is, so you'll have a sidewalk that kind of jigs. And so that needs to be considered as part of the proposed conditions on how we want to handle that. Staff is proposing that we just do the jig for now, and then we go back and fix it. The other way that we could fix that is to allow a gap, use the new right-of-way line, have a gap for the property, and then continue on the new right-of-way on the other side of that property line where the development picks back up. If we do that, we do need to consider that we may have to acquire land in the future when we go to do right-of-way for road widening after we do a thoroughfare plan update for those roads. So there are some future considerations, not necessarily for the development, but for us to consider on how we want to do sidewalks in the area. Staff proposes that the roadways within development should be public. Private roads connecting the public roads create confusion for homeowners and staff as they delineate the public and private services such as solid waste, recycling, yard waste, leaf collection, brining during snow season, snow removal, crack sealing, patching, milling, resurfacing, and maintenance of roadways. It can be confusing for homeowners to see someone on one side of the street getting services and them at the corner not getting services. The possibility of 500 or more homes will be on private roads will create equity issues, as homeowners in the development will be paying taxes as they were annexed for services such as brining, snow removal, crack sealing, but they will not necessarily be receiving those services because if they're on private roads, the HOA will take care of that and not the town. The amount of time spent fielding complaints of the natures of mediating between homeowners and a homeowners association and the homeowners association management firm, if applicable, creates staffing issues, as you have people calling in to say, somebody didn't come pick up my trash and it's not a town road, so it's a homeowners, we have to then call the homeowners management firm to see what's going on. Then town gets involved in mediating between a homeowner and a homeowners association. If they're all public roads versus some public and some private, all those issues get taken care of because they're all town roads, and all those are handled by us and through our staff, and we don't have to mediate with another agency. So the developer has proposed a response to this condition that all public roads within the development will be on single-family detached dwellings and paired single-family dwellings, which is the duplexes, and public roads for those, and private roads will be townhomes. And then the townhomes that are on private streets will have trash, recycling, yard waste, and leaf collection, and road maintenance through the homeowners association. So the Greenway Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, Corridor 2 of the town's adopted Greenway Master Plan runs through the proposed development. I'll show you a map here in just a second that'll help make the words make sense as we go through. But Corridor 2 runs adjacent along the southern part of this parcel at the intersection of Old Bun and Parks Village Road, then continues up the east side of Parks Village Road. It crosses under Highway 264 and continues west across the proposed development. And I've included the map as attachment 11. So here is Corridor 2 and the proposed development. And so Corridor 2 comes under Highway 264, and then it will come up across Old Bun, up through Parks Village on the east side, and then jut over, come down, go under 64 through a culvert, 12 by 12 culvert with lighting, and then this little triangle piece is the other part of their open space for their development. And the Greenway will continue on and stop here until the next development comes through to continue on. This is Shepherd's Park, just for reference. This is Shepherd School Road. And then over here, you tie into Weaver's Pond. So Corridor 2 is this purple line here. And they'll be responsible for not the part across 264 where it's on somebody else's property, but for the part that's adjacent to their land, coming across Old Bun, up Parks Village, and then down under 64 and across the rest of their parcel. So, Corridor 2 crosses US 264 and US 64 near the development. Each crossing is roughly estimated to cost $1 million. It's for a 12-foot by 12-foot box culvert with lighting. The plan, our Greenway Master Plan, does not state who is financially responsible for these crossings. In the past, it is been on the developer. If you develop the land, you develop to the plans specifications. Staff proposes that the developer is responsible for the culvert crossing of Highway 64 as their development is split across this highway. Staff is not proposing that developer is responsible for any portion of the culvert crossing Highway 264, as this is an offsite improvement. The developer is proposing a condition where they do not install or pay for the culvert crossing of under 64. They would like to propose an assessment that will be paid by the developer at the time of the building permits for the construction of the culvert crossing. And the assessment will have the developer's share at $225 for 837 homes, based on the rough estimate of $1 million for the culvert crossing. Staff is also suggesting a condition that developer pay a fee in lieu based on the approved sealed engineer estimate for the portion of Corridor 2 that will be on the southern side of Old Bun that runs partially along the development's perimeter. Staff is also requesting that they dedicate easements for the greenway and a construction easement for the greenway along this portion, and the developer has agreed to that condition. The illustrative plan shows connections to the greenway trails throughout the development. Staff's proposed conditions of where trailhead connections should be placed along that development and using town specifications for construction, and the developer has agreed to those conditions. Water and sewer allocation. The industry standard for water and sewer usage is for a 2-bedroom single-family home is 250 gallons per day. At 837 homes at 250 gallons per day, the overall water sewer allocation policy request is 209,250 gallons per day. Staff is proposing that the water and sewer allocation request be handled at the time of final plat rather than allotting the entire 250 gallons at one time, and that we do not exceed a limit of 50,000 gallons per day or 200 dwelling units per final plat to help control the allocation tracking versus actual usage, and it allows them enough allocation to get started. It allows us to have enough allocation on the books, and we can keep those closer, the actual usage closer to what we've actually allocated, rather than reserving almost 200,000 gallons that we won't be using for another 7 years. And the developer has agreed to this condition. Recreation amenities, they are proposing a community building, a bathhouse with bathrooms and showers, a junior Olympic swimming pool with a sun deck, parking lot, bike racks, and a playing field. Staff has proposed conditions such as the playing equipment for the playground area ages 2 to 5 and ages 5 to 12, the amount of playground amenities such as benches and waste stations and pet stations, and sizes of the pool. For the junior Olympic pool, a 0 entry to it, and the number of lanes for swimming, and the size of the playing field, which is at least half an acre with soccer goals. And the developer has agreed to these conditions. In June of 2015, the state passed an updated legislation that said building design elements may not be applied to any structures subject to regulation under the residential code for 1 and 2 family dwellings, except under certain circumstances, unless voluntarily consented to by the property owners as part of and in the course of seeking development approval. So the part that we need to pay attention to right now tonight is the unless voluntarily consented to by the property owners as part of and in the course of seeking development approval. As part of the special use permit process, we are allowed to ask some of these building design elements as long as the developer agrees to these as part of the approval. The exemptions from this are the local historic districts, National Register for Historic Places, individually designated historic landmarks, regulations of safety code, and regulations for the National Flood Insurance Program. So building design elements include exterior building color, the type or style of exterior material, styles or materials of roof structures or porches, non-structural architectural ornamentations, locations or architectural styling of windows and doorways, including garage doors, like all garage doors have to face west. And the number and types of rooms, such as we have to have 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and the interior layout of rooms, such as the master has to be on the first floor. So for the architecture, staff is proposing a condition that, for the permit, that no portion of any lot shall contain wetlands, riparian buffers, floodplain, or floodway. And the developer agrees to this. Staff is proposing a condition for exterior building materials to be brick or stone veneer, vinyl or fiber cement, which is sometimes called hardy plank siding. The developer agrees to this condition. Staff is proposing a condition that 50% of all homes must have a front facade composed of brick or stone equal to a minimum of 25% overall coverage. The developer agrees to this condition. We do have ordinances in place for all of these conditions. Staff is proposing a condition that foundations be on slab, grade, stem wall, crawl space, or basement, determined by the site grading and topography and the builder, and the developer has agreed to this. The staff is proposing a condition about the heated square footage for single-family dwellings, paired family dwellings, and 2-bedroom townhomes and 3-bedroom townhomes. And the developer has agreed to the minimum square footage. Staff is proposing a condition for all homes to have at least one stall garage. We are not requesting front or back side entry. We are only requesting that they have a one-stall garage. The developer is proposing a condition that no less than 80% of single and paired family dwellings and no less than 50% of townhomes will have a garage. For site plan approval, the development shall be subject to TRC review, technical review committee review, and final plat review will go before the preliminary plat will go before the planning board and the board of commissioners, and the final plat will be reviewed by the board of commissioners for approval. Other proposed condition topics include homeowners association. There needs to be one. As part of TRC, the town will review the homeowners association covenants. The homeowners association covenants have to be recorded before the final plat, or as part of the final plat approval. We went over some of the setbacks. We went over some of the landscaping buffers. We have some environmental, such as the keeping of open space. Mailbox kiosks have to be to the United States Postal Service's recommendations. Fire code and blasting codes have to be followed. And those were the gist of the conditions. That was most of the 84. The staff recommendation, the application was completed properly. Property notification requirements were met for the joint public hearing. It is not appropriate for staff to make recommendations of special use permits. The requested action is that you refer this to the planning board, and the requested action from the planning board is that they recommend this to the board of commissioners. For quasi-judicial requirements, the board of commissioners should motion on the approval or denial. The planning board should motion on the recommendation of approval or denial. If approved, the board need not make findings of fact. If denied, the board must vote on each specific finding and state a reason as to why the finding was denied. Only one finding must be denied to oppose the permit. If approved, conditions, if desired, should be stated in the motion to approve. So the quasi-judicial requirements or the proposed special use were not materially endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. The proposed special use were not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. The proposed special use will be in harmony with the area in which it is located. The proposed special use will be in general conformity with the ordinances, policies, land use plan, thoroughfare plan, or other officially adopted plan by the Board of Commissioners. So those are the 4 points that we need to keep in mind for the recommendation of approval or denial denied by the Planning Board, and for the Board of Commissioners motion to approve or deny the special use permit. The choices we have are to do a zoning denial with specific finding and stated reasons for such, zoning approval without conditions, the acceptance of the project as submitted in the application, which is attachment 13, zoning approval with a selection of conditions provided by staff, board members, and/or the applicant, such as the 84 conditions staff has proposed, or if you'd like to introduce more conditions that you would like, or if you'd like to strike some conditions that staff has proposed, that is where choice 3 comes in, or you can table for further study. And that is my staff report.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any questions from either board?
All right, to go.
Hey, Julie, going back to transportation, you're referring to bringing the sidewalks and also upgrading Old Bun Road to widen the road. Now, are we talking about just where the new proposed subdivision is going to be, or are we talking about all the way from Shepherd School all the way to 97?
At this point, we're requesting additional right-of-way as part of the proposed condition. And the additional right-of-way will be only for the development along Parks Village Road and Old Bun Road. That is the proposed condition as it's written now, is just along the development for those where the perimeter meets the right-of-way that they have to dedicate. The request is only for right-of-way dedication at this time. It's not actually for the widening of the road itself. When they have a turn lane that needs to be put in as part of the TIA requirements, that is where the road will be widened with the 100-foot auxiliary turn lane and the widened stacking storage of that 100 feet. Other than that, we are not requesting that actual roadway widening be done until the thoroughfare plan update is assessed.
Okay, where will the sidewalks be running? Because, you know, you've got area between the town limits now and what is currently the town limit for this proposed subdivision. So there's quite a bit of area in there that does not fall within the town limits. You're proposing to put the sidewalk all the way in that area also?
I'm going to use this map just because I think it shows a little better. What we're asking them to do for sidewalk is anything along the perimeter here, here, and on this side of the road here, through here, and here, and along Parks Village Road up this way on this side, and Parks Village here. Those are the areas we are requesting sidewalk. Anything that's off-site, we are not requesting sidewalk be done.
Okay, even though that was listed in the...
Yeah, what we're saying for the sidewalk is that they put the sidewalk in the right-of-way across these non-contiguous parcels so that it's not actually on someone else's property, that they're putting in the existing right-of-way. They're not allowed, you can't dedicate land that's not yours as part of the right-of-way. So we're asking that the sidewalk be contiguous with the new right-of-way that's been dedicated, and then come back up here to the old right-of-way, and then come back on the development to the new right-of-way.
Same thing for water lines, is that going to be on
The water
NCDOT
line, it will be
right away?
in the roadway. So that'll be done in conjunction with the City of Raleigh Public Utilities.
Yes, sir.
Julie, I'd like to talk about the proposal from staff that the developer provide the culvert crossing for US 64 highway.
Okay.
We have a very rich greenway option here in Wake County, over 100 miles with various communities. Has any community that you're aware of asked for such a condition for a divided four-lane highway?
Yes, I'm going to refer to Mike Zaraski. He is our consultant for our Greenway Master Plan, and he's going to answer some of these Greenway questions. He's our expert witness for tonight on that. So Mike, I turn that over to you.
Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Mike Saraski. I'm at 3309 News Crossing Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27616. So yeah, this is a common occurrence. Yes, there's in Raleigh where there's a proposed greenway going through an area. If a development is being built there, they will have that development do that work. A perfect example of that is if you've ever been on the Lower Neuse Greenway, there is a very large section that was built by the Hedingham neighborhood, including 2 bridges and a pretty large section of asphalt trail.
I love that greenway. Has anybody asked and paid for somebody to cross a 4-lane highway with a culvert?
I'm trying to think one off the top of my head. In my experience, and again, my experience is in Raleigh. I was actually on the Park and Rec Board for 6 years and did a lot of work with the Greenway system. Those plans were so far ahead of time that a lot of times those culverts were built when the highways were built. So unfortunately, we don't have that situation here where the highway was here long before the Greenway plan was here. So I'm trying to think one off the top of my head, and I'd have to think about that. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
In constructing the greenways, who paid for the bridge crossings, for example? The bridge crossing that's at 440 near the schools and the art museum.
Well, that was paid for by the city.
Other questions by the board?
My question has to do with the number of trips generated. There's 3 different numbers here among all this material. Which one is right?
There's a couple different roadways, so,
No, the total I'm talking
all
about.
the total trips.
Yeah. In the Ramey Kemp blue binder, it plainly says 3,280. But in their summary over in the 3-ring binder, it says 5,890.
Is Andy here? Andy, can I call on you to answer? So I'm calling up Andy Archer. He's the one who is a representative from Remy Camp for the development, and he'll be able to answer your questions about the TIA itself.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Thomas, commonly Andy Archer. I'm with Ramey Kemp and Associates, 5808 Farrington Place, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27609. In my experience with quasi-judicial, I need to explain a little bit of my experience. Been a licensed engineer now for several years, stayed in North Carolina and focusing mainly in transportation engineering. Graduated from NC State University. I've got maybe 11 or 12 years experience now. So in order to answer your question, I'm not 100% sure where you're seeing the discrepancy, so I'll just direct you to Table 1 on page 14, where it is actually a breakdown of the trip generation summary. For the purposes of the study, we assumed 274 single-family detached houses, which would produce approximately 2,600 trips per day, and then that's further broken down into peak hour totals. We also assumed 563 condo townhome units, which would encompass both of the variety of multifamily units on the plan for a total of 3,000, almost 300 units. So the
In your, are you with Ramey Kemp?
yes, sir.
Okay. In this TIA that you did, on page 33, it says 3,280 total trips per 24-hour period. I'm just curious where that came from.
What page was that?
33.
Page 33. That total is for the townhome units. It looks like there was a typo where they included just the townhome units. I'll direct you to the paragraph under Table 1 earlier where
Right.
it lists 5,890
Okay.
or approximately 5,900 units.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
There's actually another number under the Parkins Brinkerhoff letterhead generated by Will Letchworth, his letter dated November 30th in the 3-ring binder. It's attachment 10.
And that might need to be answered by Will.
Can you tell me where you are in the book?
Yeah, in the three-ring binder under attachment 10.
What page?
Well, it just says attachment 10. It's near the back.
I got you. All right.
It's Parsons Brinkerhoff letterhead, and then under the first full paragraph, trip generation, it says 5,890 trips. So just trying to get a handle on how many trips we're looking at here. It seems to be some discrepancy.
There might be a little discrepancy because two different engineers, one did the report, and this is from Will, doing a checkup on the TIA for external review as a third-party consultant. So I might have Will come up and explain where he got his numbers, but it's basically just a cross-check. This letter from Will goes back through and generates the same kind of trip generation just to make sure the numbers mostly match.
I'll actually point out that that number is actually consistent with the numbers that are in Table 1, as seen on page 14 of the TIA.
Page 14.
Correct. The 5,890 is consistent with the information presented in that table.
So is that the correct number?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Other questions from the board?
Julie, are there any multimodal mass transit plans that would allow for us to consider the applicant's request for the garage percentage, the reduction from staff? Is there anything in that realm that has been considered by staff?
Not under transportation. That's mostly a design element. So under transportation, no. Under design element, it has been common practice for us to request for a garage and units for other subdivisions. We made the request for Shepherd's Park, and we made the request for Weaver's Pond, which sets precedence for us to ask for that in this development, since those special uses were approved with those conditions.
What's the staff thinking behind that precedent, that long-standing precedent that a garage is necessary for every structure?
It helps with junk cars and getting cars off the street for off-street parking.
Other questions from the board? Okay, questions from interested parties? Okay, hearing none then.
I think there is one, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Come on up.
Yeah, well, excuse me, you have to come to the podium and be sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Kim Bunn. Although I'm not listed as a property owner, this place is engulfing me. My address is 504 Parks Village Road, Zebulon, North Carolina, where I've resided for a number of years. I don't understand how they would expand the road just outside of the subdivision. Where the cars gonna go after that? It's just a 2-lane road. I mean, how can they start this building without all of Old Bun Road and all of Parks Village Road being completely re-trafficked, completely expanded? How would they even start this?
I can answer part of that. And so that's a good question, and I don't know if Lisa can hear me or not. Is that a little bit better?
Yeah.
So what we're doing right now, Kim, is we're requesting the right-of-way, not for the road to be widened. That way we can do the road all at one time, so the cars do have somewhere to go. We're requesting the right-of-way so that we can go back and widen the road all at one time later. So right now, we're just doing the beginning stage to get the land that we need in order to do that project at a later time.
Would you do it before they got? I mean, before the first house is sold?
it's hard with needing to talk into the microphone. But what we do is we do the right-of-way request and dedication at the time of final plat. So for each phase that comes in for review, they do the right-of-way acquisition at that time with the final plat. So as the houses are being built, the right-of-way is being acquired. And then that gives the town time to do a thoroughfare plan, to get an updated transportation plan for that corridor, so we can go through and design a project and get a timetable on our capital projects improvements list, so we can figure out how to do that project along the whole corridor, so we have time to design it. But as the final plats come in for review for each phase, they'll get the right-of-way acquisition as part of that final plat review. So it'll be done as the houses are being sold, not the right-of-way widening, the right-of-way acquisition, not the roadway widening. But we'll be getting the right-of-way as the houses are sold, yes.
So you think 1,500 cars, 4 trips a day can use that Old Bun Road at the width and shape it's in now?
No, that's why we're requiring the right-of-way. 1,500 cars will not be coming all in houses at one time, because the houses will be built in phases. So at build-out, you'll have the 1,700 cars. But in the first phase, you might only have 100. So as the 7-year build-out happens, we have a time frame to get that plan in place and then do the roadway widening. So by the time the cars are actually there at build-out, the roads will be built. So we have a time frame to work within to get that going.
Thank you. Any other interested party that has a question of Julie? Okay, thank you,
right.
Julie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, now we'll ask anyone wanting to present evidence on behalf of the petitioner to come forward.
Yes, or you can scroll with the scroll button, either way.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Charles Walker, 275 North Pea Ridge Road, Pittsburgh, North Carolina, 27312. Mr. Mayor, Board of Commissioners, Planning Board members, my name is Charles Walker. I represent 264 Investments. Tonight, here we have Mike Jordan, Managing Member of 264 Investments. We also have Thurston Debenham, our attorney, Tommy Craven, our civil engineer, Jim Spangler, our environmental, and you have met Angie with our transportation group. They're here to answer any specific questions that you may or may not have. As always, Julie has done an exceptional job when it comes to this project. Her and Mark have been very diligent in our negotiations so far. As you've heard, we started out with 84 conditions. We're down to 5. And we have 5 ideas to try to resolve those 5 issues that we want to bring before you tonight. The first one is the internal road designations. The staff has asked for all the roads to be public. We changed our initial application for all single-family and all paired single-family, which are the duplexes, to be on public street, and leave the ability to do private street and parking lots in the townhome units only. There are several reasons to do that, not the least of which that as part of this design, we are trying to do a wide diversification of product of housing, which would include affordable housing that would allow townhomes on things like parking lots. So that alone would negate the ability to do public roads on all of those units. It also has issues with on-street parking. Townhomes need not only the parking lots and driveways for its units, but they need some overflow parking, or party parking as people like to call them. The current town ordinance doesn't allow those off-street parking spaces on the road. So knowing those limitations are the reasons why that we are asking for that condition to be written as we are purporting. All of the projects we've done in the past have a strong HOA presence. They have a strong documentation during the marketing and the sale of the units, and it is up to us as the developers, as we go through the project over the next 7 to 8 years, to make sure that anyone that purchases anything that's not on a public street understands that and will not burden the town staff with those questions. So again, allowing the diversification of product, both in size and price and marketing, is one of the reasons why we're asking for that condition.
Could I ask you a question at
Sure.
that point? How do you propose to handle the problem of trash collection, debris
All-
collection, that sort of thing?
We will handle anything that's not done by the town will be handled by a private contractor that will be in place prior to the houses getting there. As one of the duties that we have to do is create the homeowners association documents and have all the support structures for the HOA in place. In fact, for many years to come, the developer will be the managing member of the HOA and be involved with the HOA till almost the last house is there. So all of those private individuals and private companies that need to be there to support those non-public streets and areas will be in place prior to the first resident of Barrington to arrive.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Will the cost of that be shared?
Need the mic.
Cost of that be shared by everyone in the development or just those in the townhomes?
The standard is to have a master homeowners association and then have sub-associations depending on what the product is. So the townhome development will be paying a higher premium for just that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the next one. The Greenway Trail, Parks Village Road. Been in this area for 35 years in various properties, been on planning commissions and appearance commissions in Raleigh and other municipalities in the area. The answer to the pointed question, no, there has not been a time when a culvert has been required or requested from a developer to pay in full to have it done. The bridge over 64, the pedestrian bridge, done by the town of Cary. The bridge over 540 in Meredith College, done by the state of North Carolina. Greenways on the subject property are a different issue. If they're on the property and the ordinance calls for it, then yes, the developer is required to build them, and which is what we have done, what we have proposed to do. We are meeting the Greenway master plan in that regard. What we've suggested is that since the landowners of Barrington are not the only people that would use the tunnel, since that is going to be a public entity, anyone, even citizens outside the town of Zebulon, can use that greenway, then it doesn't seem it's incumbent on the developers and the landowners of Barrington to support all of its cost. So what we did was come up with a compromise as a suggestion, is using the same structure that the town of Zebulon did to calculate the sewer assessment that Barrington and other neighborhoods have to pay for the Beaver Creek Dam outfall. It was spread upon, I think the report called for 4,424 units to pay for the $7 million price tag. So what we did was we used the exact same numbers. We divided the $1 million proposed estimated cost, and we applied a number to it that and divided it by the number of total of units that could be in Barrington, which is 837, which comes to $225 per building permit for an assessment that we pay just for this culvert. It would be a line item that would be paid for this. The project itself is 7 to 8 years build out, so after speaking with the Public Works Director, Chris, he asked for a time limit, an overall time limit. So what our suggestion is a $225 per building permit assessment, and then our part of the fee, which comes to about $190,000, would be paid no later than 36 months after the approval of the final plats. So if we have not pulled enough permits to hit that number, then the developers have committed to pay that number within 36 months. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. Again, the culvert, we're just speaking, it goes in a little more depth about how we generated the number. The $1 million assumed cost was there, divided by the 429 homes that have immediate access to this section of the Greenway. Barrington would pay its fair share. If all the other projects coming online did something similar to what we're reporting here, that pays for the culvert. Oops. The culvert timeline, again, that's when we inserted the maximum time of 36 months past the Phase 1 final plats. And then finally, the last one that we went to speaks to what we had mentioned briefly about the public streets. All of the single family, the staff has asked for all single families to have at least a one-car garage. What we're purporting to promise, and all we're doing here as part of our conditions here, is creating a minimum floor that all parties can be comfortable with moving forward on. Nothing is stopping anybody from exceeding those limits, but this is a floor, and we're trying to project what the market will and will not do over the next 7 to 8 years. So what we've done as part of a negotiation is ask for that no less than 80% of the single family and paired duplexes have a one-car garage. And simply because we were talking about some of the townhome units having a parking lot where obviously there would not be any kind of single-car garages on a parking lot, that no less than 50% of the townhomes will have at least a one-car garage.
Questions? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if we have any members of the board commissioners, our team is here to answer any specific questions that you may or may not have, and if we'd like to reserve any time we have left for rebuttal of any other comments.
Do any of your team want to come forward and attest to
I don't think we have anyone that needs to make a statement. We're just here to answer any questions that anybody would have.
Don't they have to do that to enter it into the evidence?
It might be useful if at least their experts would come forward and just for the record state their names and their expertise.
That's what I was
and
thinking.
speak
If they
to
would
the-
just
speak to
attest,
the reports.
then this can be entered, these can be entered as evidence.
Fine. Thank you, sir.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Tommy Craven. I'm with the land use consulting firm Priest, Craven and Associates. We are land planners, civil engineers, landscape designers, and surveyors. I've been a registered professional engineer in the state of North Carolina since 1983 and have over 37 years of progressive experience, primarily in land development activities. We're proud to be a part of this design team and feel very good about the project and would certainly be glad to answer any questions that anyone might have.
So basically what we need you to do is attest to the fact that the information that you have provided is accurate to the best of your knowledge.
It most certainly is. Everything that we've touched on this is accurate to the best of my knowledge and belief.
That's fine. We need that statement in order for it to be considered as evidence.
I understand.
Are there any questions from the board or interested parties? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I'm Mike Jordan.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your address.
933 Old Knight Road, Knightdale.
Okay.
Everything that we have discussed here is correct.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Thurston Debnam.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your address.
My office address is 4601 Six Forks Road, Raleigh, 27609. For the past 40 plus years, I've been licensed as an attorney in North Carolina. I have spent a considerable amount of my time with land use issues, and in particular with regard to this project, I have consulted with the professionals you've heard so far, along with the owner with regard to the design and layout and acquisition of this property, and everything that I have seen and considered in the report is true and accurate, to the
Thank you.
best of my knowledge.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Thank you.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name's Jim Spangler, and I reside at 5 Ray Avenue in Zebulon, 27597. I'm the owner of Spangler Environmental Consultants in Raleigh, North Carolina. We've been providing environmental consulting to land developers and builders for the last 18 years. Prior to that, I was partner in another firm providing the same types of services for approximately 10 years. So I've been doing land planning and environmental permitting for close to 20 some odd years. I'm here to speak specifically to the stipulations relating to the environment, and those are stipulations number 72, 73, and 74. I can tell you that having reviewed the plan and the permitting mechanisms that are out there, that all those stipulations are true to the best of my knowledge.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
My name is Andy Gay. I'm an attorney here in Zebulon. I live at 10501 Dedham Road, and I just realized I am a interested party in that there's a little chip of land that I didn't get a letter on.
You need to be sworn in, Andy.
Okay. Let's do that first.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Andy Gay. I live at 10501 Dedham Road, Zebulon, North Carolina. I am an interested party technically in that I did receive notice that some of our land is adjacent to the developed property, but I don't think that if there's a conflict or something arises, somebody please let me know. In reference to the pond that is located behind the residence at 504 Parks Village Road, is that pond going to be removed?
The gentleman that spoke needs to come back and, okay. I didn't know which gentleman, I'm sorry.
Absolutely fine. As it stands right now, the current plan does anticipate removing the pond, the existing pond. That one existing pond, there's another one on the site south, closer to the creek. But the plan that is on record right now assumes that the pond will be taken.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Anyone else wishing to reporting evidence?
I'm back. Just to make the same statement, to the best of my ability and as independently verified by the town's consulting engineer, the report, the TA performed by Amy Kemp is accurate to the best of my abilities, save for the one typo your astute planning board member found earlier tonight.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you, sir. Any other witnesses in support of the petitioner? Okay. Anyone wishing to present evidence against the proposed project?
I'm Kim Bunn. I live at 504 Parks Village Road, Zebulon. I'm the only person who's come up here and said they had a Zebulon address except Andy. This land was sold without my knowledge. I was working with Chuck Corbett. I drew out a plan for Chuck for what land I wanted to keep, which is the pond that they're now saying they're going to fill in. I then went back and tried to work with Mike Jordan because he said at the time they didn't want to take any of the land I did not want to offer up. And We tried to work something out, and it never happened. I was told there would be 500 houses. Now there's 837. I live in a house that's over 120 years old. It was located by the railroad tracks. It was a boarding house for the town of Zebulon. And it's been my home place since I married 45 years ago. And they're going to take my front yard, they're going to take my pond, and they're going to build 837 houses, and you don't think that's going to devalue my property? There's going to be little 2-bedroom townhomes with no garage and parking on the street, and that's not going to devalue my property? Anybody? It says that you're not supposed to do it if it changes the value of the adjoining property.
Let me help you. Have you brought a witness to attest to that fact?
Andy,
This is an evidentiary hearing, so I'm really trying to help you here. Have you brought a witness, an expert witness that would attest to that fact?
I'm going to stand with her as an attorney in fact.
Okay.
And I would suggest to His Honor the Mayor that a property owner in the state of North Carolina, by all case law, under all circumstances, can testify as to the value of their property.
Okay. Thank you.
And so I think she would.
I'm just trying to help her to be sure that.
Yeah, and I hope I'm trying to.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Anything else?
I think that my property provides a lot to the town of Zebulon. As much, if not more, of course, not tax value, but it is a historic home. I am under the Wake County, where people come out and look at your land and see what you do. They come out and look at the grapevines my husband planted. They'll be gone. I'm willing to buy this land from these people just far enough that they aren't in my front and backyard and they don't cover up my pond. I'll pay them exactly what they paid for it. Please, please, please don't do this. Don't do all of this, because it will devalue everything I have. And who makes that up to me?
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Bunn. Anyone else?
Go next.
Yes, sir.
Probably don't need to be resworn.
No.
Okay. At the public hearing for the annexation, and I realized that the SU was postponed so that we could all kind of decipher what was being proposed, and what we are fortunate enough to have is a opportunity to plan a development. It appears to me, though, that there's some circumstances that will need to be garnered heavily by looking at granting a special use permit, particularly when there is the way that the islands of land were left and the statements that were made at the annexation that there would be no further condemnation, that no more condemnation was needed. I believe that it will require additional condemnation of Ms. Bunn's property. In fact, just to access the existing pumping station will again condemn Ms. Bunn's property. Also, in reviewing, and these things may seem somewhat insignificant now, but I wasn't clear on the widening of Parks Village Road or Bunn Road. It seemed to me that on the one hand they were saying, well, we're going to get this, but if it is outside of the right-of-way, I would assume that it would have to be done by eminent domain that is the condemnation of the property, which is pretty much standard procedure. But when you're talking about the placement of the sidewalks and then this gerrymandering around the lots, I didn't quite understand how that would ever be fixed until such time as they either did additional condemnations of private property or there was something in the plan to address that on the front side as they related to by consent. So I too argue on behalf of Ms. Bunn that the 837 dwellings, when she lives at 504 Parks Village Road, you've probably seen the property, familiar with the outline of the way that her particular tract falls into this. The idea of having to not recognize that, as she stated, that there would be a devaluation in her property, if in fact you have the ratio of townhomes and duplexes, eliminating some of the natural features of the land. And it's extremely interesting to me, particularly when they're talking about I realized that Kenny and the planners were sort of coaching who's ever put anything under a highway for a greenway or who paid for it. And I can understand how the developer came up with at least trying to appease the town's requirements in reference to making a financial contribution per lot. But it seems to me that what's going on now is we're building a subdivision sort of after the fact of planning. And I mean, there is no thoroughfare. That was one of the reasons for the delay in the hearing. But Ms. Bunn is extremely concerned about sidewalks, entrances, whether or not there's going to be an entrance sign located immediately adjacent to her house. Will it be lighted? Will there be condominiums or duplexes adjacent to single family? Zebulon has historically been fairly comfortable with single family development. I do realize that Zebulon is also understanding that not everyone wants to live in a single-family detached home, and that affordable housing is important, and that people are living different ways in our society than what traditionally maybe Ms. Bunn's house was. But what she's here arguing for is some sort of consideration, whether it be by a buffer, whether it be by preserving the natural, what makes that Bunn farm attractive. The pond, particularly in question behind her house, has always been pretty much all that she could sacrifice from this. Historically, this transaction took place. She's actually an owner in this property, and that's a little bit odd for an owner to come up and object to benefiting from the sale of their land. But she was a minority owner in a corporation that chose to sell against her will. And she's tried to express that to you here tonight. I certainly want to echo her concerns. And for the life of me, I don't know how there's going to be not the necessity for additional burdens on her, not only just this project, but the trappings of this project in regards to as I understood it, it was the east side of Parks Village Road, which is the front of her house, and then the sidewalk, how that property is going to be treated at that point, and then also on the land that she currently has under contract, but is attempting to sell, where the actual future condemnation that's being threatened, Mr. Waldrop, concerning access to the pumping station across what we know as, some people know it as the Bell Farm, some people know it as the electric farm. Thank you all very much.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Sam, I'm sorry, you need a microphone.
Oh, yeah, okay. Is there a historical, documentation of the plan, of the farm? I mean, Is it in the registry or is there somewhere of that? I'm just curious. I just don't know.
Ms. Bunn will have to answer that. I'm not aware of her home being in a historical district, but she can clearly answer that.
I'm sorry, I had knee surgery just a little while ago. The home was not in the Historical Society because it was going to be torn down. It sat right beside the railroad tracks, and that land was bought by the Eastway Education. The school, the charter school. The house prior to that was in, but because I relocated it, I lost my historical status. However, my neighbor is here, and his farm that butts right up to this is definitely a historic site. And I just wanted to mention one other thing. My neighbors on Parks Village Road, they're very good people, very good people. They, I know, need to come and speak for themselves. I'm not sure they can afford the taxes that'll be imposed on them either.
Question? Yes, sir, Ken.
Well, a question and a clarification, if that's okay, sir.
Sure.
As Mr. Gates kindly reminded me, I am an employee of the City of Raleigh Public Utilities Department. And one of the potential actions that department can take would be land acquisition. Although I
You lost your mic.
Although I'm part of the executive management team of the utility, I am not part of the development review group or the capital improvements group of which this issue would route through. It may have an appearance of conflict of interest, but I do not believe it's an actual conflict of interest, and I wanted to be sure that my fellow board members and the commissioners knew that.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, just a couple points of clarification. I was at the annexation meeting, and Your Honor mentioned that there were no further condemnations to be done by the town of Zebulon. You said that very specifically, and I remember that. If there is any further condemnation needs to be done as far as sewer goes, or a part of the sewer, that would be done by the city of Raleigh, not necessarily the town of Zebulon. The plan as it calls for right now has various and sundry buffers around the perimeter. As it speaks specifically to Ms. Bunn's farm, the plan calls for a 15-foot wide type A buffer in areas that are not covered by existing vegetation. That is already in our proposal. And also, we very specifically in our condition writing, so there was no question, and that was brought up by. That could be brought up by owners that are not part of the project. What we are committing to is right-of-way, additional right-of-way, greenways, sidewalks that are within our project and within our project only. We do not have the ability to, or the inclination to go after land to try and get sidewalks installed that are not on our property and are only temporary. The town staff had mentioned that about possibility of using the wider right-of-way and setting the sidewalk and then coming closer to the street into the existing right-of-way. We had brought up the concern of whether or not DOT would allow that, since both Parks Village Road and Old Bun Road are DOT roads. So that is a decision to be made up to the DOT. But very clearly within our proposal, we show and promise those issues to be done within our project limits. Yes, they'll put a couple of holes in the donut, but we can't commit to something we don't own. So I just wanted to make a couple of those positions very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
You would support additional condemnation of Ms. Bunn's land in order to gain access for your sewer, correct? No matter who does it.
There are sections of the lower property near the pump station that may need a additional sewer easement brought to the southern part of the property. However, the entire project does not hinge on that development. The gravity line that feeds into the pump station is partially on the Barrington project, and part of the gravity line that goes from the manhole at Parks Village Road and Bunn Road is a gravity line that heads toward 264 that we could also get sanitary sewer access. So the project does not depend solely on any future right-of-ways acquired near the pumping station.
One more question. You would agree with me that the areas you say that you have sewer access represent about 15% of your entire project?
No, I wouldn't agree with that at all.
No, come to, please answer on the record.
No, sir, I wouldn't agree with that at all. Because of this particular situation and where the gravity lines feed into the pump station, there are some places where the sanitary sewer manholes are more than 30 feet deep. Yes, we are going to have to open up the planet to service those manholes, to service into Barrington, but yes, 15% of the project, that's not the case. That is simply not the case. Tommy Craven, our engineer, can speak more to that than I have, but that is a issue that we identified fairly early in the process.
I certainly don't want to banter, but do you know the percentage?
At this time,
No, I do not know the percentages. We have not made an analysis of that. Furthermore, I'd point out that the City of Raleigh Public Utilities Department has a process for situations where easements are crossing other people's property. And if the city deems that, if the Public Utilities Department deems that that piece of infrastructure is important to the city of, to the public utility system, then they will attempt to assist in the acquisition of that right-of-way or that easement. They use that very sparingly. They continuously encourage the proponents and the property owners to work together to come to some sort of an agreement that does not require condemnation by the City of Raleigh or their Public Utilities Department. There's a well-defined process and policy for that. In fact, I would say it's highly unlikely that there would be a condemnation, but that is always part of the process, and that is an action that the city could take if a sewer easement is necessary for the extension of an important piece of infrastructure for that system. This entire development, the portion that would drain through Miss Bunn's portion of the property, could be served by another lift station that would lift the wastewater up the hill and put it back into a gravity system, bypassing her property. Typically, the City of Raleigh is not interested in maintaining additional lift stations. There's a cost to that. There's a certain environmental risk to that. They prefer gravity sewer. Those are all questions that would have to be asked and answered at a later time as the construction drawings and the more detailed development plans were being prepared.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
When will we find that out? I'm losing a lot. I'd like to know if I'm going to lose more.
Again, that occurs as part of the site plans and the construction drawing design at a later time in the process. I do not know what date that would be.
Would you start building without that?
No.
You couldn't start building until that was completely decided?
Well, there are sections, as Mr. Walker pointed out, there are portions of the subdivision that do not drain through your property. Those portions of the development could certainly proceed instantaneously with town approval.
Other questions? Thank you, sir.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Will Letchworth, 18 Letchworth Drive, Zebulon, North Carolina, 27597. Given that my staff, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Given that my report was used in the staff report, Mark requested that I come up and testify that the information presented in that report is true to the best of my knowledge. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of North Carolina. I'm with the firm WSP Parsons Brinkerhoff. I have over 13 years of traffic engineering and transportation planning experience. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Questions? Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak?
You want that one or do you want the aerial? This one? Okay, we'll use this one because it's a little bit bigger. All right.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Tom Hendrickson. I reside at 1915 Old Bun Road in Zebulon. We have properties at 1915 Old Bun Road, 1917 Old Bun Road, and we bought the 5 acres across the road at Old Bun Road and 97 from the Church of God parsonage to actually keep, to actually provide some protection on that corner as well. I want to address several items. I'll start with the couple of comments in the staff, and if I misunderstood, I was sitting back there, so I apologize, but I think I heard staff say that the adjacent land around the property, including, if this does, I don't know how to do that, including, well, the land that, everything in the lower half as it's oriented here, is county jurisdiction. And that land, as well as the land immediately along the southern border, the border that borders our property. Thank you. I don't want to bind you. But all of this, when we spoke last time, all of this property, as you'll recall, was land that has historically been in the county jurisdiction. Our property shares this entire border here with the developer. We have a 165-acre property. It is the only farm in Wake County where the entire farm is designated a historic site. It is on the National Historic Register. The cabin was built in the 1780s. The house was built in 1833. It is one of Zebulon's true landmarks. We have people come visit it regularly. We just had over 500 people out for a holiday party this weekend at the lodge we built right near this property here. I can't get an aerial on it at this time. Where we have a lodge where we do weddings and special events, and some of you have been out for the Balloon Festival, which is having those events is one of the ways that we are able to maintain the costs of keeping up a historic register property. But that property, including our farm is R30, not R20. And I believe that it was, unless I misunderstood, I thought we said it was R20. It's Wake, and all of the land that's just been taken in was Wake County R30. One of the things I think we're seeing when we hear folks talk about the thoroughfare plan, I saw the traffic report. And by the way, I should state, I was on Raleigh's Planning Commission for 5 years. I chaired the Comprehensive Planning Committee. I'm the developer of a project known as Viridia in Apex, 1,000-acre mixed-use development project. I was hands-on in spending 2 years and with an incredible team of folks writing one of Wake County's first custom-written form-based codes. I am familiar with most all of the development team who are good folks. Unfortunately, none of them have been out on our property, other than Mark, who hasn't been out in this process. Our planning staff, town staff, has not been out to look at the impact of this proposed development on Zebulon's only major National Historic Register property. We talk about trying to do some historic register things in downtown Zebulon, and yet we're going to turn our back and act like we're just going in and following, the planning, as if this is a planning exercise without any context of where we are. By the way, I will speak up on, and I'll jump out of sequence with my notes, but the culvert concept, I have some experience in that, because in Viridia we were looking at doing a double barrel culvert for both pedestrian and utility. We were trying to do steam as an integrated urban steam system, and we were going to bring a culvert under 540 before it was built. But similar construction, two sets of 2 lanes of interstate level construction, and it was well over $1 million to put the culvert in place at the time of construction of the road. So I am not a civil engineer. I'm not trying to opine on that, but I can tell you that as having experienced that and having negotiated having 5 other casings of varying sizes from 30 to 48 inches, I think, installed under a major interstate road, we backed away from a culvert crossing like that at the pre-construction process because it was simply not cost effective. I would encourage you I'm all in favor of connectivity, but on that one, if this thing's, however it's set to go forward, we have a bridge across 64 up there, and pedestrians can walk up there and walk across and go back down just as easy as they can walk under a culvert that frankly we'll never see built in our lifetime. The other issue is you got the complicating factors that I didn't hear mentioned of we're trying to make that road an interstate highway. And you bring the interstate highway protocols in place and try to put a big culvert underneath it. And I would just ask, I just don't hear that being addressed here. And that's not my issue, but I would say I'd rather take that money if the project's going forward and make sure that we work out some buffers against our property and spend some attention to the existing lake that's behind Kim's house, rather than go a pie in the sky for a culvert that's spending money on something that's never going to happen. I will point out to Mr. Walker and to my friend Tommy, who I haven't seen in a good while, but they're great engineers, and he's correct that the city of Raleigh has a process. It was reported in the paper. So, Mr. Walker, I'm not questioning you, but the paper reported as it was saying that no further condemnation would be required. I have and had from Ms. Bunn that parcel that's in white that looks like you might look at this and go, why isn't that included? Why wouldn't it be a better development if it was all together? Fairly logical question. We proffered it up and said, I'd like to buy that, trade it with land so that our property, which is a historic register property, is not facing the back end of townhomes without any significant buffer. And so that Kim could retain the grapevines that folks do come out to see, the grapevines that her late husband Eddie planted and was so very proud of, that will be demolished based on the plans that I've seen. And as I look at this plan, I see nothing but the rear end of townhomes facing Zebulon's one major National Historic Register property. We work very hard to keep that property, to maintain it, but if we're not able to do the things out there, if it turns into where if the town doesn't care about it, it makes it harder for us to care about it. I would ask you to care. As it relates to the utility down there, we put that under contract, proposed to swap acres for acres. not trying to hold anybody up, just trade it out. And was told we don't need that because City of Raleigh will condemn it. And Mr. Jordan and I have had several emails with the city about that, back and forth. The mayor's been copied on some of those. And the fact is that, that was basically the threat was we'll just go ahead and condemn it because once we have the town's approval of the special use permit, then the city of Raleigh will then do the condemnation. So technically it's the city, but functionally it's you all. It's in your hands as to what happens with that. I do think we are suffering from the errors of perspective due to the lack of a comprehensive plan update and a lack of a thoroughfare plan update that would have stakeholder impact. I've never in my life seen this much significant of a expansion of a town without update of the plan and without going out and getting stakeholder impact. I'll guarantee you that our neighbors across the street from me have no idea that the plan's calling for widening the road in front of their houses. Frankly, I didn't either because I haven't been able, as active as I am, I don't know where to find the rest of the full reports. You guys have it. We see bits and pieces, but I don't have the full report in order to have a more thorough response at this time. So we're doing the best we can with the information that we have. I've been in real estate since 1985. I graduated from law school in Wake Forest in 1984. Again, been on the planning board, have developed real estate. So I do have, and I also am the owner, but I also have significant experience in that I just sold the Capitol Club building as a major 12-story National Historic Register property in downtown Raleigh. And there's no question in my mind that the current site plan and the development plan damages the value of the adjacent historic property, the Bennett Bun Plantation, which we own. And I saw an appraisal earlier in the process. I haven't heard from an appraiser this evening. The appraisal that I saw was woefully inadequate, and it did not address the impact of significant properties, nor did it address the specific impacts of the plan that you have in front of you when it backs a development up right into the face of a home, as in the case of Ms. Bunn. I don't see any setbacks proposed. I see setbacks along the road, and that's nice. Setbacks on 264, as if anybody on 264 cares. I don't see anything in here about setbacks proposed for R30 properties or from the rear of townhomes. And having still working on, frankly, the removal of 40-year-old Leland cypress trees that were damaged in Hurricane Matthew, that blew over, that were in and of themselves probably 15 feet wide. I can assure you that a 15-foot wide buffer in the scope of our 165-acre farm and that development is meaningless, which is why I proposed to them to purchase property, trade out property so that we could have a double layer of buffer and also have room to put the circa 1900 White Country Church that we bought from down near Clayton, that we were trying to move over to our property to finish out a wedding venue that we have down there. And unfortunately, the site that makes sense, if we're backing townhomes up to it, I think it creates a problem, and it will eliminate that use for us. I made the point that staff had not visited the adjacent property. I don't know how the staff can complete a cogent staff report. And I would invite you all, planning board, staff, council, to come out and come tour the site. This is your town. It's our properties. And we welcome you to come see the impact of what this is going to have. So I just know that offer is made. I extended it earlier. By the way, on the sewer, because I also developing a 1,000-acre site, I understand the concept of how you can bring sewer in different places. I do not believe the city of Raleigh will approve you putting gravity sewer lines at a 30-foot depth because of the higher cost of maintenance. That gets into an OSHA depth. So technically, that's a correct answer, but practically, that's not a correct answer. Tommy is correct that you could, or Mr. Craven is correct that you could put a pump station down there, but the city of Raleigh is not going to approve that. The reality is, by normal conventional development standards, this entire property, if you can see the area I'm circling over here, all of this area up on the map would not, from here over, would not be able to be served with gravity sewer. They're looking to come across this property here. And that's the area that we've been told, that's why they told me they did not need to work with us because they could get the city to condemn it once you approve a plan. Abutting the rear of townhomes to the Bennett Bun Plantation property will damage the overall area and specifically damage the value of the Bennett Bun Plantation, both as a property, as an open space, as the only farm in Wake County that is designated as a historic site for the entire property due to the open space nature and due to the property's designation as on the National Historic Register. Our venue supports historic property, and with this proposal, it will significantly damage the venue's viability, damaging the ability to maintain the historic property. And I think you heard me mention at the last meeting, as we all know, homes are the land's last crop. I'm trying to preserve an asset for the town, but if this is coming in beside it, it's hard to know how that's going to happen. The lack of sensitivity to adjacent parcels also damages the value of the parcels as well as the cultural and open space value of the current conditions. And I think those are all factors that are relevant in your decision-making process, and I do not believe the standard has been met. As to the comments I heard earlier, I would, and because we haven't seen it, I don't know, because I don't know how to get a full set of any of the documents to properly review it. But when the town is asking for public streets and the developer is asking for private streets, I well understand that debate. I understand the issues, I understand the pros, I understand the cons. I would suggest, request, and as an adjoining property owner demand that any connectivity to adjoining parcels must be via public streets and right-of-way. You cannot allow connectivity to adjoining properties to occur through a private drive that requires in future cooperations with a pre-existing homeowners association. That is unfair to the adjacent property owners. It's damaging in value, and it's a recipe for disaster and future litigation. I had my point back there I was making when we were talking was it's ironic that staff's okay to drain an existing lake without objection, which provides an incredible amenity for the area and helps maintain some of the cultural open space and agricultural ambience. But we want to tilt at windmills and build an expensive culvert because it's on a plan. I would ask you to reconsider the plan, bring the trail upland, take it across the bridge, bring it back down, and take that money and deploy it into making sure that we actually take care of something that's relevant to the current properties and property owners in the town of Zebulon, rather than setting up some escrow that frankly a future council will then figure out what to do with it, because by the time that enough money is ever pulled together, that's going to be an interstate highway, and putting a culvert under it is going to be an absolute impossibility, in my opinion. Not to mention the fact that I don't think $1 million will touch it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have one more comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to ask that this be tabled until I can invite you all out to my house and my farm and you see what is going to happen to me. Can we please just take a look at it?
Are we even allowed to do that?
Well, the short answer, I suppose, is yes. If the pleasure of the board is to continue the hearing and leave this public hearing open, and any members of the board that wish to could go on a site visit. The key is that any decision that is made by recommendation by the planning board or decision by this board be based on evidence that's addressed at a public hearing, and obviously sort of ex parte knowledge gleaned from a site visit that is not raised in a public hearing becomes problematic.
And if-
They could just come and see, so they could see what it is you're voting on.
Okay. And
Please, I invite you. I could make a time for all of you to come at the same time, and I will just open the door and let you in. I won't say a word.
Yeah, I was going to say we could not have any ex parte communication whatsoever. Okay, but thank you, ma'am.
I'd just like to address a couple of the issues that Mr. Hendrickson brought up. One of his comments was not allowing any stub streets be pointed at his property. If you look at the plan, there are none. There are two connections that are proposed to the east toward his property, and they're both public. The townhome component that we have currently in the plan does not follow the entire southern boundary, just a part of it. The venue, according to aerial photography and GIS, the venue that's next to the pond, that I believe that's where Mr. Hendricks holds his commercial enterprise, is about 500 feet away from the property line or common property line. And the historical house is about 1,200 feet away and about 20 feet above our project. So going from 15 feet to try and go to 20 or whatever that's a nominal difference. We will have to plant wherever there is no existing trees in the area. I believe looking at the GIS, there is a row of trees that are actually on Mr. Hendrick's property, but there may be some open space on our property that we would have to augment with a buffer. Another issue that Ms. Bone brought forward was the neighbors further down the street about not being able to afford taxes. As long as those properties are not annexed into the town, their tax base is not going to change 1 cent. This project was the only part of the land that was annexed into the town. The surrounding properties were not. And we're assuming as part of the Greenway Master Plan that was done by the town, had some input by the NCDOT about the allowance to someday put a culvert under that property. The $1 million was the estimate that we were given by the town, which is what we based our number on. And also, when it comes to the Greenway Master Plan, our project is actually accepting more of the public greenway on our property than the master plan calls for. The main part of the master plan that runs along the creek is in the plan to run along Beaver Dam Creek as it crosses Park Village Road and as it crosses 64. Our plan, because we are a larger development and we have more design capability, is we are accepting the connection possibility across 64 on our property. So we are making some concessions with how the greenway is done. Mr. Craven is exactly correct. There are several ways to sewer the rest of the project. Again, because of the depth of the existing project, there is more than usual ability than a simple point A to point B above ground. Areas can be graded to be accepted into the sewer. The sewer can be, since we have the property on both sides of the sanitary sewer easement, then that allows us to be able to go deeper and be able to supply more of the watershed than usual. This is a very deep system. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it if you could just try and follow the cursor, that is the gravity line feed that feeds the pump station. It comes across, maybe right there, down the property, and feeds the pump station. So all of that gravity line is on our property. And then also the force main that the pump station feeds that runs up Park Village Road comes to a manhole right there. Then the gravity line then goes across the road there. So that entire run of sanitary sewer that's going to be in the ground is available immediately. What may or may not happen in the future has not yet been decided. And again, there are several ways to do this. A linkage of a pump station, try to move the easiest thing to do is to try and get a sewer easement at a later date if it's needed to go across that property, but it's not the only avenue to serve the project. That was something that we knew was a limiting factor, and it looked quite hard at that design. Thank you.
I have one
Yes, sir.
question. In looking at the report, I want to know that I'm understanding it correctly, that with perimeter boundaries of the minimum of 30 feet setback for, and then there's also another 30-foot setback to the structure. Am I reading that right, or?
The buffers that are spoken about on the project are a perimeter buffer that goes from the boundary into the site. And then either the townhome unit yard or the single-family yard is built off of that. And then the single-family lot setbacks within the code then kick in. So let's say, for example, and also there's a difference on 64 and 264, there's a 50-foot buffer. On Old Bun and Parks Village, there's a 30-foot buffer. And then the setbacks within the lots themselves are taking over. So if you have a lot that's fronting on, just using this as an example, if you have a lot that fronts on, let's say, Old Bun Road, it has a 30-foot setback, and the building has another 20 it has a street and then a setback off that street, so the house itself, in relationship to Old Bun Road, could be 70, 80, 90 feet away, the actual structure. So, again, those are minimum standards. The perimeter buffers are not part of the lots. They're not part of the single-family lots. They're part of the open space of the project.
And that 30-foot buffer runs all the way around the property?
On Bun and Parks Village, it's 30. On the perimeter of 264 and 60, it's 50. Everywhere else, it's 15. Yes. Thank you.
Well, I'm reading, it says the parking lots, driveways will be, okay, wait a minute. The buildings and the parking lots and driveways will be no less than 30 feet from the boundary.
Correct.
So you've got a 30-foot boundary.
It's a combination of building setbacks and buffers.
30.
Let's say, for example, it's a 15-foot buffer, and then the townhome would be another 15 feet for a total of 30.
Okay, well, what I'm reading here is confusing then, the
I'm-
way it
I'm-
says.
I'm sorry.
Because, let me explain, and this is why I'm asking the question, I really want
Please
to
do,
understand
please
it. It says, again, what I just read, 30 feet from the boundary. Then you go down under multifamily units, and it says, building to rear setbacks is another 30 feet.
Correct.
So
it
would that mean it's 60 feet?
No, it means a total of 30 feet.
Okay, total.
Yes.
All right, that's what's not clear here. Thank you.
If I could answer anyone else's questions.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Tom Hendrickson, responding back. It's not, I hear you, but I'm not sure where to see it, because I cannot on this detail map see anything. And if I'm hearing you that along, that's, I don't know what we have, 2,000 feet of adjoining property line, that basically we have a 30-foot backyard. Because it sounds like they're not going to put trees, if I have an existing old tree, they're not doing anything else. And what we are trying to protect is a view shed from a circa 1833 National Register property house. I've lost some trees along the front, which we're going to replant. I had proposed to the applicants to purchase property right along this border in exchange for this property up here. And because right through here, is where we do have our venue. And I haven't tried to scale it, but if he says we're 500, I don't think we're quite that far. But we also have a gazebo in the middle of the pond, which I don't believe he correctly measured, which is probably 250 feet from the property line, if that. And we had cleared a site for the Calvary Methodist Church that we had purchased from the Methodist church organization and this in Johnson County to have it moved, and we had cleared a site that we would have proposed to put it back when we thought we were working out a buffer for it to fit there so we could still bring the horse and carriage in front of it, safely in front of our pond. We were needing to situate it about 15 feet off the property line. That's when we realized how close it was in there. And we were trying to negotiate something, also to frankly try to buy our own sound buffer so we didn't end up with a noise issue with a pre-existing facility and neighbors moving in without us at least offering. I also want to point out that the sewer that needs to come across here is coming across property that is not a part of this development, that can be a part of this development. This property could be brought in, no loss in density, could flip them over there, take care of the issues that Ms. Bond has raised, the issues I've raised, and we had said I would buy this property and trade it out with them. I don't know how to be any more reasonable than that. I do not believe that the current plan correctly addresses the diminution in value both on Ms. Bunn's property and mine. I do not believe that it's properly acknowledged by the town that your actions, if it is approved as is, you are functionally authorizing the public condemnation of private properties owners' land in order to benefit them. And that is a serious public policy question that bears further discussion than tonight, bears discussion in a different format other than a quasi-judicial hearing, but that is the fact. It is Mr. Dednam or Mr. Craven pointed out that there is a policy in place and it is not often used, but we have been, after trying to work it out, we've been basically told, well, that's what they'll do, and they don't have to work with us on it. We would prefer to cooperate and work it out, but the property that should be involved is still sitting there white and not included. By the way, when you bring the thoroughfare, the Parks and Rec plan through, that's another piece of public taking of that piece of property for the benefit of others around here that is coming out of land that is currently owned by Ms. Bunn that I have under contract. That is for the benefit largely of this current property. So, but I did want to point out we have a site cleared for the Calvary Methodist Church. That foundation would sit about. We thought we could be 15 feet off the property line and be okay, but with the current proposal, I don't think so. But I hear all of the big buffers along Old Bun Road, and I'm not sure who we're buffering on Old Bun Road. I think the question is why we're not talked about buffering the folks who are here talking about it. Nobody along 264 needs buffering, but the adjacent properties do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other questions?
I just have one question. It's probably going more to our attorney. If I'm trying to figure out, just to make sure I'm doing the jurisprudence correct, we're looking at city limits, and Bum Plantation is Wake County, and so I'm trying to figure out in the purview where it says the properties of, I could see if it was in, do I take that into account? Because like my attitude of it, if both were in the city limit, it'd be a much easier decision than now we're going up a city limit to a Wake County limit and trying to judge the property and the historical values, because it's trying to weigh that and understand that. And is that even something I should be considering?
Well, the broad answer is it's your job to review the evidence as it relates to the findings of fact as to this special use permit, dealing with all the property that's within Zebulon town limits. Now, of course, that obviously has some impact on neighboring property owners within the county. But that's your job to make the findings of fact based on the evidence as to all of that combined. Based on the evidence, by the way, and I want to be clear about that, it's based on the evidence, based on expert testimony as to impact on future value, not just lay opinions.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I might add, it's a good question. I would remind the council and the planning board that up until your prior action, all of that large tract of property here was county jurisdiction until it was annexed. It went, and it's fairly unusual, but legally permissible to go from county jurisdiction to straight into annexing it into town limits, but which does then require the town to take action to impose some zoning on it because it's otherwise sitting unzoned. But it went from R20 county jurisdiction into the town. So, and I'm the lawyer here who tries not to be, but the standard, council, I would ask just to state my understanding is that one of the standards to review is the impact on adjoining properties without regard to their jurisdiction. So the fact that the Bennebun Plantation is still in county jurisdiction, frankly, the piece beside us was as well. This came on us quickly because we frankly expected a comprehensive planning process to occur before anything was annexed, and we were mistaken.
Again, I just want to verify for Mary. Again, this was a voluntary annex, not a forced annex. So
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry to keep coming up here. It's absolutely right. This was a voluntary annexation. And as part of the voluntary annexation, the land that was at the time in Wake County was brought into the town limits and honors the area of the comprehensive plan that was covered in the town limits. So the section that was already in the town or under the town's jurisdiction was that area. And in the current comprehensive plan, it's listed as medium density, up to 4 units to the acre. This project, however, not only took in that property, but that property. So by extension, and for agreement with the comprehensive plan, we matched what was being brought in by the county voluntarily to match the current comprehensive plan. The area that we're talking about down in here, I can't speak to the daily negotiations of what may or may not happened in here. Yes, both this property and an area that Mr. Hendrickson had spoken about was tried to be at a similar size for a just quote-unquote swap. The area, and I'm sorry this is hard to follow within here, from the pump station over is floodplain. In that area is a draw that is covered by the Neuse River riparian buffers. That's the right-of-way of Park Village Drive. So yes, while that area may be 27 plus or minus acres, its available ability for development is closer to 14 or 15. So that was one of the reasons why the idea was not continued. And and based on what Mr. Hendricks was saying, what he wants to do with the relocated church for his mission venue, that's not on us. It's not on our property. We don't have a problem if he wants to expand his commercial use into our property. The project that he has right now will be there, if this project is approved, will be there when Barrington is constructed. So it's not like neighbors will be surprised when they look behind them and see a commercial venue and a historic district. Again, one more time, the 2 streets that are being extended through here are public streets. The greenway along Beaver Creek that Mr. Henderson described that was going to be a burden on whoever owned that land, it's the same burden that we're addressing. If you're going to develop that property, and you're going to develop that property as per the town's Greenway Master Plan, you are going to extend that greenway. That's your job, just like it is our job. So that is not being done because or by the proposal of Barrington. That is by town code and by town policy, not us. So one more time, with the affection of the sewer easement and the sewer usage and the sewer design, that we see there are ways around that, and we are confident to move forward with the city with the policies that are set by the town, the state, and the city. Thank you.
The thing that I don't think that that is being expressed, I guess, is that, let's see if I can make this thing work. This is me. That's only me. But this is me. But they don't want this because they can't build as many houses on it. I want to trade this for this, and Mr. Hendrickson wants to trade this for this. How come they get everything and we, as long-standing residents, don't get considered? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I would ask now if there's any new information to come before the board. I don't want to keep, I don't want to go over and over and over again. Not that that's what you've done. Just anything new to come before the board for the hearing. Okay, if not, I want to make a final statement and ask a question at the same time. I want to remind both boards that only evidentiary testimony can be considered, and personal opinion, hearsay, and statements not relevant to the specific issue cannot be considered in making this decision. This is not our rules, this is the rules for this type of hearing. My question is that in doing research, I also had that also personal investigation by a board member cannot be considered. The decision must be made based solely upon the substantiated evidence presented in the public hearing. So my question goes to investigation, personal investigation.
A personal investigation, certainly once the public hearing is closed, if the board decides to close the public hearing, would be an impermissible basis for the board to make its decision. That's because it effectively constitutes ex parte conduct, and that wouldn't have been addressed in a public hearing. For example, if somebody had a concern based on inspecting the property, it should be raised within a hearing to give both the applicant and any opponents the opportunity to address that on the record. And since at this point, if the evidentiary hearing is closed, that would be the end of the evidence, and nobody would have an opportunity to address those concerns. Okay. So at this point, personal inspection, once the hearing is closed, should be off limits.
Okay. Other comments from the board? Anything that you want? If not, then I will close the public hearing, and we will refer the matter to the planning board for their study and recommendation. I would suspect they're probably not going to meet on it this evening, but they do have a certain amount of time to get a response to us. So thank everyone for speaking. I know everybody's passionate on your side. I understand that, but we've got to move forward here. So I would ask if there is a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.